Hi, this is Mancho Soto. I'm going to speak to you today about my life and then what I like to call the three cultural identities that are a part of me. So, firstly, is my first identity, which is Colombian. I'm actually 100% Colombian. Both of my parents are from Colombia in South America next to Brazil, known for um, probably what comes to your mind when I say Colombia. Probably beautiful women, coffee, cocaine. That's what usually comes to most people's minds. When I think of Colombia, I think of my parents. Um, I grew up in upstate New York, in a place called Middletown, New York. Middletown is a small town of maybe, I don't know. If I had to guess, I can Google it, but I haven't. I would say about 10,000, anywhere from 10,000 people to 20,000, 30,000 people, maybe. So, pretty small town, considering that 100 miles or maybe 60 miles or 100 kilometers south is New York City, which is much more, it's has a lot more going on. So I grew up like in a quiet town in upstate New York. Now, when I tell people that I'm from New York, usually people imagine like Sex in the City, yellow taxi cabs, high buildings, Wall Street. That is true. I am from the state of New York, but I didn't grow up in Manhattan or any of the boroughs like Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, or Staten Island. But I grew up more like suburban, I would say mixed between suburban and rural community. Um, so I grew up as a Colombian boy, meaning that my parents are both from Colombia, and my first language is Spanish because of that. Now, I learned English when I was 4 years old. I remember being like going into uh, kindergarten or like pre-K, pre-kinder, and then crying the first day because I didn't want to be away from my parents. But also, it was a new setting for me, and it was like uh, it was. I remember for 1 year I was like a mute kid, meaning like I didn't speak at all. I just observed my pre-K teacher who happened to be bilingual in a time when like there weren't that many bilingual teachers. So nowadays, I'm sure there's like tons of bilingual teachers, but at that time, back in the I don't want to date myself, but back in the 80s, there wasn't such a large Latino population in Middletown like there is in modern times now. Um, so I remember I had to like I was very fluent in Spanish, but not English. So my early years were more like a typical Colombian boy, meaning that I loved soccer. I played soccer. I watched soccer or football, depending where you're from, but basically kicking the ball and trying to score goals. That football. Um, I I remember like going to, like everything was in Spanish. So like the news was in Spanish, telenovelas or like dramas or depending where you're from, whatever you call them, soap operas. Telenovelas were all in Spanish, and um, the the foods that I ate were like Spanish foods, like rice, plantains, beans, various kinds of meats and vegetables, but those are like the core foods. We went to like I lived in uh, like a small apartment complex, a small community. It was 70 Broad Street. Still remember it, and it was like Columbia, like little Columbia, just in those apartments, not in the whole town of Middletown. Um, but The apartments had like a lot of Colombianos, so we would play like hide and go seek until late at night. Um, play all the time. It was like Spanish culture, like focused on like uh, having fun. I remember the adults would have these salsa dance parties, like weekends. So they were up like. Luckily, everybody was Colombian, so everybody was cool with the noise. I guess I know now it's a little bit like if my neighbor was having salsa parties, I'd be like, damn, aren't they going to sleep anytime soon? But back in the days as a boy, like going through the room and like just running around playing with all the other little kids with the adults dancing salsa or merengue and having those like sceneries, those vivid sceneries with like music blaring and um, so it was a really fun childhood. I had a really good time. I didn't realize that we were poor until, and by poor I don't mean like we didn't have food. Obviously we had food, shelter. We had all the basics, not like some of the wants and no luxuries because my parents were factory workers, low income in the US, but for them, it was like, I imagine they were like, wow, we own a car, or our kids are going to American schools. So they were probably very thrilled because it was I imagine it was an increase in the well being of their lives. However, like relative to the average or median income in the US, I imagine we were on the uh, lower like middle class or working class, I would imagine. So I didn't realize that until later on when you can like compare with your classmates or like see different um, like homes. Like I remember going to friends' homes and being like, oh my God, you have so many rooms. You have your own room. It's not a shared room. You, it's so spacious. Everything is so like well maintained and orderly. So that's like the earlier years, and then so a lot of as a Colombian, my early, I would say my first like 8 or 10 years of life were like mostly like as a Colombian boy, and then the teenage years by the age of like 9 or 10, I was already like I remember listening to MC Hammer's "Can't Touch This" or Vanilla Ice's "Ice Ice Baby" or uh, Rob Bass, "It Takes Two." Started listening to like American hip hop and watching uh, the Detroit Pistons beat like Michael Jordan and watch the Bulls. Then I watched like American TV shows now and became like an American teenager. Um, so those were like the early years, and so my first culture is Colombian. Second culture is through education, through friendships, through um, like uh, TV. A lot of times that it wasn't like streaming back then; it was mostly TV. So the TV stations really had the power back then. So um, the the next years were mostly like American, and then I had another turning point. So I spent my first like 20 years or so in let's say like 18 years in and Middletown, New York, and Pine Bush, New York, and then the uh, the other major change was going to college. So I got away from that. So that changed to the next episode. So because I got away from my small community in Middletown, where I like had a lot of people that were like similar to me. Then I went to college. I went to SUNY Albany. It was then called State University of New York at Albany. I've since learned that it's now called University at Albany, meaning that they try to make it more sophisticated or sound more like university. It's still SUNY Albany to me because that's what it was called when I attended. But um, the major, and I didn't, by the way, I didn't learn that much in university. There's really two major things that I learned in university. Was first thing that I learned was freshman year. I learned that I didn't know much. That was really important for me because I never thought about learning, and I never thought about um, like how much I knew and how much I didn't know. These are things I discovered in college when I met people and they asked me like, hey, did you read Catcher in the Rye, or did you read uh, of Mice and Men, or like all these classic books that most high school students were supposed to have read or had read. And I didn't read any of those books because I was in the habit of just hey, did you can you give me a quick summary? Did you did you read that book? Can you tell me what it's about quickly? Like, who are the main characters? What happened? And then just like pretty much like cheating my way um, through like the homework assignments. However, I did take the quizzes and study for the test myself. But I did no reading. That was the major point. So I didn't do any reading at all. What that what that means is that when I got to college and people were talking about books, I'm like, I got nothing to say. I got absolutely nothing to say. I have no comment. I've never read. I didn't read Moby Dick. I didn't read this. I didn't read that. So the first important lesson that I learned in college was that I didn't know that much. So what happened was I felt ignorant for the first time. And it's okay to be ignorant. I realized later that ignorance is okay as long as you know about it and you find your shortcomings and find a way to bridge the gap, basically. So um, in university, I learned that I didn't know that much. So what did I do? So I felt, how did I feel? I didn't feel too good. I felt ignorant and like foolish. So, and I also felt embarrassed because I liked the girl, and she was the one that asked me like, "Did you read this book? Did you read that book?" And of course, I had to say no. um, so I I don't know if I think freshman year of college, I was gifted a book from my aunt's husband, Raphael, who gave me not Think and Grow Rich. He gave me Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I'm like, wow, this is really good stuff. I never knew about assets, liabilities. So I read that book, and then I read Think and Grow Rich, and then I read Benjamin Franklin's autobiography, and then I read um, War and Peace, summer of my freshman year. So I started reading a lot of the classics, business books, classic books, business books, classic books. I then had a desire to like become wealthy when I went to college due to my ignorance and wanting to impress a girl. Um, so that's that's my story. Basically, like similar. Learn to study, learn to like actually teach myself, and learn to learn. Um, Junior year was a big year for me because I I was in a marketing class, This is the second thing that I learned, by the way. This story is a prelude to the second story. I was in a marketing class and I was grouped up with two Korean girls. And the marketing professor basically went around. He said, "You three, you three, you two, you four, you three." And we did an exercise. I didn't know anything about I had like one or two Asian friends, but I didn't know anything about the culture. And I was grouped up with two Korean girls. Both of them, I found out later, were exchange students. And one of them, her name is Chahyun, she had asked me after the group activity, she asked me where the gym was. Back in the days, I used to work out more. Not so much anymore. Now just try to stay healthy, I guess. I should work out a little bit more. But yeah, so I explained to her like go 100 yards that way, go past the trees. You're gonna see a road. Go on the road. Blah 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 blah. She had no idea what I was talking about because she didn't know our campus layout. Um, what what did I do then? Then I decided, okay, let me walk her to the place. Uh, I didn't think anything of it. I just thought like I'm helping this girl who's new to our school. Obviously, maybe doesn't know our campus that well. So I walked her to the gym. I showed her the gym. Walked her inside. Showed her a few of the machines. I didn't think anything of it. That was a Friday because I had to run to work. And when I came back to the marketing class and then the following Monday, I saw her and she said, "Hey Mancho, I got some Korean snack that I brought in. It was a snack that is called kimbap. Kimbap is basically it looks like it's rice with veggies inside of it, and it's wrapped in seaweed. It has the seaweed wrap. So kimbap, kim means seaweed, and bap means rice. If you're interested in learning that Korean, kimbap. So she gave me the kimbap. I tasted it. It was okay. It was not great. I later learned that like Korean food in Albany is just not that great. Korean food in the Korean uh, like in places like LA or Fort Lee, New Jersey, Korean food is or Queens, New York, or New York City. Korean food, or Korea, of course. Korean food is in those places very good because there's high competition, and there's you gotta be good, otherwise you won't be in business long. Now that Korean food in Albany was not that good because there's not that many Koreans, so they basically have a monopoly in the Korean food, so it's not that good. They don't have to make it that good to stay in business. So that that was the beginning of a friendship. So the Korean girl, I showed her American culture, which was like the shopping mall in Crossgates Mall in Albany. I showed her the shopping mall, and like house parties. We were just friends, platonic relationship, nothing romantic, nothing crazy. But and I remember we saw Harry Potter as well. She invited me with a group of like 15 or 12 Korean students, uh, international, like real Korean, not Korean Americans, like Korean. And I thought, my God, this is pretty cool. Uh, so we saw Harry Potter, which I didn't really love because I was like 19 or 20 years old, 2021. So I thought this is a little bit childish. But then later I read the books and I thought, wow, this is pretty impressive. It's rather amazing. So I did a 180 on that. And now I do like Harry Potter. I don't know if I love the movies, but I definitely love the books. Books are really great and were very fascinating and helpful in my language studies as well because I read them in like a couple of languages. So at the end of the semester, she said, "Hey, Mancho, will you visit me in Korea?" I'm thinking, like, why would I go to Korea? Why? I have no interest in Korea. It's crazy. Why would I go to Korea? Like, I'm a Colombian guy, Colombian American. Like, I'm not going to Korea. So a few months passed, and the girl that I actually liked, she had gone abroad. She went to Spain or some country in Europe. I think it was definitely Spain. Uh, and I thought, okay, now I got to become a little bit more cultured, so I should study abroad. And by that time, I had been reading books. I had been because I read Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. I also began to study languages because Benjamin Franklin, I don't know if you know, but he is autodidactic. I think that's the right word, autodidactic, which means somebody who self learns or studies by themselves. So he was like an inventor, a scientific inventor, a business guy, a printer, a gatherer of information, a gatherer of people. He built the UPenn, what became UPenn, University of Pennsylvania, uh, which is one of the top schools in the nation and possibly in the world. I imagine in the world if it's one of the top in the nation. He built hospitals. You know, he was a diplomat. Uh, just like accomplishment after accomplishment after accomplishment. That inspired me to take one one thing I got from him was languages. He self-studied languages, and of course, I had a much easier time because we had libraries. So, and at the time, I was working a part-time job in the in like New York State before they implemented Easy Pass, and then everybody just is has a tag, and everybody. I was one of the people that were like 25 cents or 50 cents or $1. I was a toll booth collector. I did that as like in the middle of the highway. I, uh, my brother actually introduced me to that job, and it paid pretty well, like 12, $13 an hour, which at that time minimum wage was I think $7 or $6. So I thought I was a big baller, and I was the only one there that would like read. Not the only one that would read consistently. There were a few people, but I was the one of the ones that would read, and also because didn't require a lot of brain power. If somebody uh, has a $1 toll and they give you a $10 bill, like it's automatic. You don't. It's simple math. You don't have to really use your brain power for it much. Um, so I would study French, and that's how I began to learn French. I would listen. I would go to the local library in Middletown and get French audio, like Pimsleur audio cassettes at that time. So we had French audio cassettes, and I would listen. Later on in university, I would like there was like a series like a war series of audio cassettes in French. That's all they had, and I would just study like French that way. So at the time, getting back to the story with my Korean friend, invited me to when she invited me to Korea, I thought it was crazy, and I thought like I should go to France because I'm already studying French, and I can possibly become fluent in it if I live there and if I study abroad. At least more fluent than was at that time. So I went to my international uh, student exchange office in Albany, SUNY Albany, and then I asked them, "Do you have uh, any like spots to go to France?" And they said, "Yes, we do have spots." So I got a spot in France to go to France. I think it was the a university in Montpellier, if I recall correctly. So I was going to Montpellier. I talked to one of my buddies, and I said, "I'm going to go to France." And guess what happened? He convinced me that France was like he, and I don't know if this is true because I haven't yet gone. If you're French, let me know if this is true or not. But he told me that the French are not very nice. Or if you've been to France as a foreigner, also let me know. This would be interesting. But he told me that the French are not very kind to people that are not fluent in French. Uh, he said that they weren't that kind, and he persuaded me to go to Spain. So he said, "Come on, the Spanish are like much cooler, much nicer. They're more friendly. We'll have a great time." And he was one of my best friends. So I thought, if I go with my best friend, it's gonna be amazing because it's two of us, and we'll have such a good time. So I went back to the office and I said, "Can I go to Spain?" And they said, "Okay, you can go to Spain. There's spots available." So my friend, or my friend, my buddy, he told me, "Hey man," one day he told me, "Hey man, I'm really sorry, but I can't go to Spain anymore." I'm like, "What? Are you kidding me? Why can't you go to Spain? Then what the hell am I gonna do?" I didn't even want to go to Spain. I wanted to go to France. And he said, "I'm really sorry, but there's nothing I can do. I got a job in the state senate that pays me money as a university student. It pays me some money, and I get college credit, and it's good for my resume. It's like the triple banger. It's like unbelievable combo." So I went back to the international office, tried to change back to Montpellier so I can go to France. "I'm so sorry, but we have no seats available." I'm like, "Oh my God, why did I listen to my friend?" Because of him, ended up going to, or deciding that I was going to Spain. I canceled my Montpellier um, like travel plans, and now I'm going to Spain alone, which I don't even want to go to because, and nothing against Spain, I still haven't gone there yet. I will go. I heard it's amazing, but one of my goals, because I was in like I had the growth mindset, and I wanted to like learn. I already knew Spanish because my parents are Colombian, so that's why I didn't want to go to Spain. Rather than go to like where I would feel comfortable, I wanted to go where I wouldn't feel comfortable, and I would instead grow. So that was my frame of mind. So I when I was in the office and she said, "I'm sorry, but there's no seats available," something in my head clicked. Something clicked, and it said, I could just see my friend Chahyun say like, "Hey Mancho, will you come visit me in Korea?" And I'm like, "Oh my God." Um, I asked the office worker, "Do you have any spots available for South Korea?" "Yes, we have 8 spots." I'm like, this is good. So I called my friend. I went back home and I called my friend. I had to get a calling card. Back in the days, there was no WhatsApp, there is no Telegram or all these apps that we can use to communicate globally. Back in the days, I went to the supermarket, I think an Asian supermarket, and you would have to get a calling card, scratch off the card, then you call like a New York number or like a local number, and then you put uh, the password or PIN code, and then you dial the Korean international number. So that's what I did, and I connected with her, and I asked her, "Hey Chayan, is that offer? Were you serious about that? Did you want me to come to Korea?" And she said, "Oh yeah, definitely." She said, and she was like a church goer. So I thought everybody was a church goer in Korea. Like, really, like, no alcohol, no partying. I thought that was the normal Korean. I later found out that there is a group of Koreans that are like church going and like no cursing, no, but that's a minority. I didn't know that. I later found out because I was in the clubs, going out having fun. I was meeting the club people, so it's just, you can never assume that all of one group is just like the first member of the group you met. For example, if let's say I met um, let's say I met a Colombian and they do love salsa dancing, and or let's say somebody met me. Let's say somebody met me, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's Colombian and he's really terrible at dancing. So Colombians are terrible at dancing." That's totally wrong. That's just me being terrible at dancing because I just never had the like amazing like salsa like moves like a lot of my family members. But that's just me. So if you would have guessed that all Colombians uh, do not dance well, that's only because you met me. You met the wrong Colombian to display the salsa dance category. I don't even know if people dance salsa anymore. I think it's a lost art because now reggaeton is more popular. But getting back to the story, um, she said, I can ask some members of my church, and maybe I think I can get you a homestay. Homestay. I'm like, what's a homestay? She's like, well, you basically stay with a Korean family and they will take care of you. I'm like, that sounds amazing. Of course, I would want to do homestay, stay with a Korean family, and she said, are you sure? And my thinking at that point was like, oh my god, I don't know anything about Korea. I don't know the language. I don't know the culture. I don't know the food. I know nothing about Korea. If I'm successful in Korea, I can be successful anywhere. That was my thinking, and that's how I decided to enter my, I don't know if it's second or third culture, Korean. So that was my introduction to South Korea, and I got to learn about South Korea through my friend Chahyun, who did hook me up with the homestay. And prior to her having left the states, she gifted me um, a Yonsei University. Now Yonsei, if you've never been to Korea, they have three universities that are renowned in Korea as like the elite universities. They're called SKY. So Seoul National University, Korea University, or Yonsei University, SKY. Those three universities are like the top of the top. There might be another one, KAIST, which is a like technical school, but SKY is still like, so when I talk with Koreans and I say I went to Yonsei University I always say as an exchange student, so they don't think I went through a crazy like uh, tests and I stayed up all night every night junior year taking the SAT. So they don't think that. So they know that I went as an exchange student. But it's basically like a Yale or Harvard or Stanford of America, but it's of Korea. So I I did the homestay for 3 months. Um, but prior to that, Jahyun had spent 1 hour with me teaching me how to read Korean. So prepping for my Korean trip, I began to study Korean. She gave me a grammar book from Yonsei University, and she gave me a really thick, really thick English Korean or Korean English dictionary. So I would paper dictionary. There was no Google Translate. There was no web chat GPT where you could just say like, "Hey, can you translate this for me? How do you say where's the bathroom when I'm at the airport?" There is no such thing. You had to look up like things word by word, and eventually I got an electronic dictionary. So that was like the level up. But I did that later on when I was in Korea for the second time. My first time in Korea, I got to Incheon Airport and I saw a sea of black hair. It's the first time in my life because I've where I was from, Middletown, New York, and where I studied at the time, Albany, there were ethnicities, different ethnicities. In the U.S., I imagine UK, Canada, like many countries now have different ethnicities. But when I first arrived in Incheon Airport, that was the first time that I was in an Asian country where most people don't have brown hair. Most people have black hair. So that was from like landing in Incheon Airport. I'm looking around like, oh, this is different. This is different. And then the language is different. I didn't understand. I remember just going to the bathroom was difficult, and English wasn't so prevalent back in the days. Now, if you go to Korea and you say, "Where's the bathroom?" or "Where's this?" everybody would understand because the youth and like and my generation too, they all speak English. So and the young people speak English really really well. So you would have no difficulty in Korea now, as even just with English. But back in the days, that was like '02. Um, that was that was exciting, different, very cool. So, how was my homestay experience? It was good. Um, for breakfast, I remember my first breakfast in Korea. It was uh, some food they call kakdugi. So kakdugi is like radish, and everyone is eating with chopsticks, rice, kakdugi, like spicy radish for breakfast. And they're looking at me and they don't speak English. I don't speak Korean at that time. And maybe they speak English now. Who knows? Um, Unfortunately, we lost touch, so I don't know. But we would be able to communicate much, much better now. And I put that spicy food. I'm used to, like, at that time, like cinnamon toast crunch or waffles or Thomas's uh, muffins or bagels or just like what you imagine being a typical breakfast for like most Americans: eggs, bacon, and then I get there and spice hits me. Like, first of all, when I'm using the chopsticks, my hands are so shaky. I'm like, oh my god, how can I, eat with this? Like the rice keeps falling, and the Korean rice is sticky, so it's not like the Spanish rice from Colombia, where it's like each grain of rice you would have to pick up, so it's not practical. Korean rice is sticky rice, so you can actually pick up like pieces or chunks of it. But I that was my first encounter, and they laughed. They loved it. They were like, "Oh my god, the foreigner is like struggling so much. It's so funny. Poor guy, he's eating the spicy food." And then I could not handle any spice because we're not we're not Colombians are not like Mexicans in the sense that in Mexican cuisine there's a lot of spice, but in Colombian cuisine not really. At least not in my household. And I haven't. I wasn't used to the fire, but now I can handle the spice. So that was like homestay was very cool. I lived in a Korean household. I had many interesting experiences I can share with you. One experience is uh, I took a. This was really kind of crazy. So I'm used to taking showers, just like showers. So in America, typically we have shower curtains so the water doesn't spray outside the like tub area. Now, I went to the Korean house and the homestay house, and there was no shower curtain. So I'm like, how am I supposed to shower with no curtain? Have you ever tried it? I'm sure you probably haven't, unless you're Korean. But if you have tried it, then leave a comment below and let me know about if you had a similar experience as me. Or so I'm in the tub, curled up like so. I'm lying down in the tub, like with the shower head, like spraying like this, making sure that I don't get any water outside the tub because there was no curtain, and I didn't want to be a guest and uh, and ruin their bathroom floor or get it really wet and mess it up. So I'm in the tub, like spraying like this, and then suddenly, like I don't know why, the water pressure or something, like it just squirted out, and I'm like, oh my god, like I'm a guest and I'm messing up their bathroom. I'm messing up their bathroom, and then they had these little towels, and I'm like I'm wet, like I just like I'm a guest and it's day one and I got water all over their bathroom. I'm like, oh my god, and I don't speak Korean. They don't speak English, and I messed everything up. So finally, I don't know what I did about drying or whatever, but I ended up dry and like clothed, and but the bathroom was still wet. And then my friend came to pick me up, Jaehyun. She came to pick me up to show me like the town, like, and by town I mean Seoul, which is a metropolis, huge, awesome, like dynamic, vibrant, many things. Seoul is like really nice city. So she came by and I'm like, Jaehyun, you have to tell the family I done messed up. I really messed up. She said, what did you do? I told her, I got the bathroom floor wet. She's like, so what? What does that mean? I said, I got it wet. And she said, it's supposed to get wet. There's a drain there. And I'm like, a drain? She said, yeah, it's supposed to get wet. The floor dries and the water goes down the drain. I'm like, why didn't anybody tell me? All this time I was so worried about causing damage to the floor, and there's a drain. That's just normal. That's how people shower in places in Korea. Later on, they have different types of showers, and I lived in more luxurious buildings where the showers are enclosed and everything. But at that time, that was my situation. On the flip side, Jaehyun told me, you know what happened in London? My dad, he had the opposite situation. What's the opposite situation? So he was in, we were in a hotel in London, and uh, my dad showered. He moved the curtain. He took the curtain off because it was like annoying. It was like maybe it was claustrophobic or something. But he took it off, and water just started pouring out the door. And we started knocking on the door like, Dad, Dad, you gotta stop the shower. He thought that the British, and then they were like, they spent the whole time with towels and towels and towels and towels drying the floor. He thought that the UK bathrooms were like the um, Korean bathrooms, and that they had a drain, so he expected it for the water to drain naturally and not flood. So I'm glad my hiccup was minor relative to Jaehyun's dad. But those were my first 3 months doing homestay, and then later the next 3 months was at the university, where I lived near the campus, and it was so much fun. I felt like a superstar in Korea because I was like young. I could speak English. I learned Korean with the homestay, and I knew some Korean, and it was easy, very easy to make friends. I felt like this is the life. I feel like a rock star. Um, in my university, I had a lot of friends, but I never felt like a rock star. The rock star feeling only happened when I was in like Korea, and people were like really excited to meet me, and so that was my first encounter with Korean culture, and then that like gave me motivation to. I always had it in the back of my mind, like I got offered to teach English, and I'm like, I can make money doing this, teaching English. You mean speaking? And they said, yeah, we'll pay you like 25 or $40. I'm like, $40? Like, that's a lot of money. It was to me at that time. I remember, like, for speaking English, I don't even have to speak that much. This is amazing. So, I got a good amount of money. I was able to uh, flirt and have fun and go out and make friends and meet international friends, Korean friends. Really awesome. Had an amazing time. So in the back of my mind, I always thought like maybe I can always come back here. So my first experience was so amazing. I thought maybe I will come back here. And I came back to the US, and um, I graduated from Albany, worked in Manhattan, on Wall Street for about 6 months, and on a project, and the job ended. So more like time, like just like sitting, hanging out, um, like doing a little bit of traveling, and figuring out what I want to do with my life. And my dad said, get a job. And I was looking online, found a website called Dave's ESL, and got a job teaching English in South Korea. I went back there. So that was my other culture. I went back. I lived in Korea for 10 years, not 10 years straight, but almost 10 years. So I became Korean. So to flourish in Korea, I had to really like adopt the culture and like bow, 안녕하세요, like hello, like just the mannerisms, the communication was all like the Korean way. So when I came back to the US after 10 years in Korea, I had to relearn the American way, the American culture. So what better way to learn culture than through meeting people. So what did I do at that time? I got into sales, and I decided the fastest way that I can uh, get integrated into the culture again, immersed in the culture, is by learning sales. Because if I make if I don't talk to people, I'm not gonna earn any money. So commission-based sales, that was very helpful for me. So talking on the phone, I was like a Korean guy, a Korean Colombian American guy, super weird, because I knew like my mindset had shifted to being like to have a mindset that was able to be successful in Korea, but the communication was like this Korean. Like instead of saying no, like if a friend said, "Hey, do you want to go to this party?" I wouldn't say no. I would say it seems like it will be difficult. It sounds really crazy, right? But that's the way you communicate in Korea. You don't say no. You just say it seems like it will be difficult. That means no. But these are the minor details that I learned in communication with in Korea. But then I had to relearn how to become American. So from teaching English and speaking very clearly and very slowly, to like using a more moderate pace of speech, one that like doesn't like bore people to death. So that's my story of the three cultures. Like first, as a boy, I was Colombian, little Colombian boy, just seeing the world, and then second one as an American boy, teenager, and the third as a Korean. So those are my three culture stories. I hope you enjoyed it, and um, subscribe or follow, and share or leave comments, and tell me what interested you, or if you have any similar stories that you could share with the community. My goal is to grow a community, and I'd like to share more stories like this. And if you like, please subscribe or follow, and I will see you on the next one.